Hello and welcome back. This is going to be another lesson on Python 3.2.4 or 4.2 or whatever the hell it is, 3.2.3, yes. Today we will be going over variables within the Python language. And so a variable is a name that represents a value stored in the computer's memory. So variable references a value. So let's type out a variable. So let's say, I don't know, Gary is equal to number 67. So what happened here is on the left side, this is a variable. The middle is the equal sign or the operator. And then on the right side is the expression, if I am correct. Yes, so expression. So what this will happen is it'll assign Gary, the variable, with the number 67. So if I go down and I pulled up my print function that we learned before, so print, parentheses, single quote, or I'm sorry, no quotes, because okay, so print parentheses Gary, and then parentheses to close it, and then press enter. Now, why didn't I enclose it with quotes? That's because if I were to enclose it with quotes, as you can see, you can probably guess it'll print out Gary instead of the number 67. So if I want to print out the number 67, I want to type in Gary parentheses. So what will happen is there's a variable, there's the operator equal sign, there's the expression. 67 will be assigned to Gary. This will print out a string literal of Gary, and then it'll print out Gary that is assigned 67. So it'll print out 67. So let's run this. Run module. There we go. So now it printed out Gary 67. And you notice that I have spaces in between. It just ignores the spaces. There's no spaces in between here. So if you wanted to have spaces in between, you can type in print parentheses parentheses, or you can type in parent parentheses quote quote parentheses, or any other quotes, single, double, triple. It doesn't really matter. So run module. So what happened is it assigns a variable, blah blah blah, and then it prints out a space here and a space here, or a line. I'm sorry, it prints out a line here and here. So yeah, that's the fundamentals of variables. So I can put out a bunch of spaces, and it'll just ignore the lines. So yeah, variables references the value. Assignment, statement, example, which I've already explained. So I'm just reading my notes. The left of the operator must be a variable. This has to be a variable, or an error occurs. So if I say, if I'm about to write out an error that you should not do. So if I say 87 is equal to Henry, this will cause, I'll type out a comment line, you don't have to. This will cause an error, and you don't want that. So why will this not work? Because you cannot assign a number. You cannot make a number a variable. You cannot say, oh, number 87 is assigned to Henry. No, you can't do that. So to make this right, you have to type in Henry, the variable name, is equal to 87. So let's run this. It'll still cause an error, so I just want to show you the error that is about to occur. And then can't assign the literal, like I said, because you can't have the number in the variable. You have to have some sort of well, I'll go through the rules real quick. So you can't do that. So we'll just remove this. And so yeah, so in order to get the variables and the variable, the operator, and the expression in the right place, know all the rules, The rules are for the variable naming rules. One, cannot use Python's keywords as a variable name. So you can't use print is equal to 95. So if I go to run module, it won't produce. It won't do an output of print 95 because it'll cause an error. So print, and then we go to run, see if it works. Yeah, so it'll just come out with an output built-in function print. So this isn't, you can't assign a function to a number. It'll just give you what does it do. It's a built-in function print. So remove that and remove that because a built-in function does not work. So that's number one. Number two, variables must contain no spaces. Excuse me. So let's say I put a space in between hen and re, so that's not going to work. That's going to cause an error because I can't have a space in between. See? Invalid syntax because it just doesn't accept spaces in between variables, so don't want to do that. No spaces. Number three, the first character must be one of A through Z, so I'm good to go here because I start out with the first character of A through Z, whatever it is. Or it can be in uppercase, so it can be in uppercase, Henry, that'll be fine. Or it can have an underscore, so we can have an underscore as the first character, and that's fine. So the first character must be one that is A through Z, uppercase A through Z, or it can have an underscore as the first character. And so run module and print Gary. Name Gary is not defined. I don't know what that is about. Line 8 in module print Gary. Oh, I'm sorry. Excuse me. So what happened is, yeah, so I'm supposed to put an underscore here and it should work. Yeah, I forgot to do that. There we go. Yeah. So Gary 67. That's the output. So that really confused me. So yeah, and then number 4, after the first character here, you may use A through Z again, or uppercase A through Z, and you can use digits 0 through 9. So I can put 3. So let's change this to 3 so it'll output correctly. So airy, 3 airy. This will still work because I can put numbers after the first character, but I can't put a number 4 here because it'll come out with an error. So it'll come out as an error, or it should. Yeah, invalid. See, this still accepts this, but this is invalid because it doesn't accept the number 4. So we don't want that. So I'll make this an H and run the module, and it still works. And then number 5, the final one, is uppercase and lowercase are distinct. So if I make this Henry, and let's actually put Henry in here. So print Henry. So I did this on purpose. So this is going to be an error. So I'm just putting in a quote. So error because these two variables are distinct and nothing is assigned to Henry. So it should produce a bad output. Yeah, traceback. Henry is not defined. Lowercase Henry is not defined because I haven't defined it yet. So don't want to do that. They are distinct, uppercase, lowercase. They are distinct from each other. So run module. Now it should work. On the next one, Gary 6787. So yeah, that's the rules for naming your variables in Python. You can use underscore to represent space. So you can use underscore to represent space. So let's say Henry superb. I can do that. Print out Henry underscore Hello. So this cut off because I'm using not a trial, but like a limitation on how much I can capture on my screen. So yeah, that was pretty annoying. So yeah, let's delete all this and continue on with what we were doing. You can use underscore to represent space. So you can say Gary underscore Henry is equal to 89, and then I can just print parentheses Gary underscore Henry parentheses. And so what will happen is it'll print Gary underscore Henry, because remember, you can't have space. You can separate it so you can read it easily with an underscore. So run module. Source must be saved. Okay. And so yeah, it'll output to 89. So yeah, so it works fine. So you can use an underscore to represent space. You can use camel case. So let's say I had number of sales, and then also do this, number of sales. So I can use camel case so it's easier to read this. If it gets pretty long, your eyes can't really comprehend what this says very easily. So what you can do is you can use camel case, which is fine. So you can say, oh I'm sorry, wrong number. 0, or wait, oh I'm sorry, O. I was trying to capitalize 0, and you can't capitalize 0. Number of sales. So what happens is camel case, you have the camel humps, so you start out with the camel, and then you have the first hump here and the second hump, and then equal to 89. So I can also change this uppercase so I can see it better through my eyes. So I can see it now. It's number of sales, I can see that, and it should output the camel case just fine. So go to run this camel case. There you go. 89 it still works like a charm. So number of sales, this is camel case. You can also do that as your output. You can display multiple items in a print function with a comma. Each item is automatically separated by space. So okay, so let's just remove all this. I can do, let's say, print quote, I am in room number, colon, and then end it with a quote, parentheses, and then say the room number, print whatever it is, 508. Oh, I'm sorry, quote, because I want it to be a literal string, 508. There we go. So this is all literal. Even the number. See how the number is a literal string, which I'll go over later as to why that number is a string and not, numbers aren't strings. So I'll go into that later on. So it'll print all that out. So run module. It'll say I am in room number 508. So we'll go back, and what I want to do is, instead of calling the print function again, I want to be cool and actually put this with this print function. Actually, I wanted to, I wanted to actually type in a variable. So room variable equal to 508. That's what I meant. Or you can do it that way. So instead of 508, we'll type in room. There we go. So now it'll still print out the same thing. So I am in room number 508. Yeah, because this is a variable. This is an expression. This expression is assigned to the variable, etc., etc. So yeah. So I want to put this print function together with this print function, so I only have one print. So what I want to do is I want to go here. I want to get rid of this. So I don't need that. I want to go here, and I want to put in another parameter within this argument. So this whole thing is called an argument. So I want to put in another parameter. So I type in comma because I want to separate the two objects. So comma, now I put in room. So what happens is this will print I am in room number colon, and then it'll create a space because that comma will automatically implicitly make a space between this and this, and then it goes to room, goes up here and says, oh, this is 508. It'll print 508 here, and that's it. So run module. I am in room number 508, so it looks a lot cleaner, a lot more professional this way. So you can use commas to do that. Also, I haven't done this, but maybe if I assign another one, like door is equal to 18, it should work. Door, because it's going through each one, so, and it'll create a space. See if it works. Oh yeah, it works. So 518 and 18. So it works. It does work. So yeah, you can assign multiple things. You know, comma, keep on going. So yeah, that's how you bring the variable in the same print function as a string literal. So yeah, so can display multiple items a print function with a comma. We saw that. Variables can be reassigned. So I'll just create some space. So or not. So we'll keep this. I'll remove the door. Remove this. So we'll keep it simple. Save. So what it means by reassign is I am in room number blah blah blah, and then I can go on and say room is now equal to 192. So now I can say print, but I met a foxy lady and is now in room number quote, and then comma, because now you're stating there's another object that you want to include in here. So string literal first, and then I want to include the variable room again, and then close it with a parentheses. Because you don't want to put quotes around room, because it'll make it a string literal, and you don't want that. So you want it to reference this variable. So what will happen is I assign room with 508. It'll print this out as normal, like I said before, and then this is room equal to 192, so it's reassigned into memory, and now it'll print out this statement, and then it'll create a space because it's a comma, right? Comma makes space. And then it'll print out the room variable 192. So it should work. So okay, I'm in room number 508, but I met a foxy lady and is now, or am, and I am now in room number 192. So it works. So that's another way that you can reassign variables. So okay, so on to the next one. There is numeric data types are int and float. So what that means is we're talking about numbers. So we'll remove all this, and we'll talk about numbers. Get up there. Numeric data types are int and float. So int is short for integer, and then float is a number that includes a decimal. So a float is 7.8. Whatever, however long you want it to be. This is a float. And oh, don't type this out. I'm just showing you. And then integer is a whole number. So integer can be a -3. It can be a 2, 10. As long as it's whole and it doesn't have the decimal point and then whatever after it. This is an integer. This is a float. Integer, float. So yeah, those are the numeric data types. So let's say I assigned the value 1 equal to 5. Value 2 is equal to 5.678 or 5.8, whatever. And then I want to print these two out. So print function parentheses. I want to print value 1. Now I want to print the next one. Oh, parentheses, value 2, parentheses. And then it should work. So it'll print out the first one is a integer and the second one is a float. I know it doesn't really make like, why would I want to explain that right now? But it'll come in handy later on. So yeah, so I'll explain that later. We will actually include a function. I'll show you here. It should highlight. So int. See how it highlights, and then float. So you can change the number to an integer or to a float. So we'll go over that later. Cannot write currency symbols, spaces, or commas in a numeric literals. So what I had before, a numeric literal means that I'm actually, we're not talking about strings anymore, we're talking about numeric numbers. So, so if I said value, that's a variable, equal to operator, operator, and I say I want to print out, or actually I'm not going to use the print function because because you're assigning the variable. So I want to print out this number. So where's the $$4, 567.99, and then it'll produce an error. So print parentheses value. Now if this was correct, it will print it out, but it won't print it out. So run module, invalid syntax. It's an invalid syntax. See, it went to this first because I can't, for some reason this program, there's other ways to do this, but Python will not allow you to actually assign, it won't allow you to assign the exclamation point, the @ sign, the pound sign, or the whatever it is. It won't allow you to assign the comma into or reference to the variable value. It just won't do it. So it just won't do it. It also won't accept the comma. So see, it does, but it produced a logical error. So I don't want that. So in order to combat that, I think that comes later in the, through my lessons. So it's 4577.99. It should print that because this is a float. What the program is doing is when it saw the $, it can't assign it as a string. It can't assign it as an integer. It can't assign it as a float. Okay, so without the $, without the comma, it can see that this is a float and assign it in memory. So now it should work because this is a float. It's 4,577.99. So yeah, it works. So just avoid using $signs or commas, and there's other ways to actually put in the $signs and commas that I'll go through later. There's also a string data type, which I talked about earlier. A string is what's literally there. So print parentheses string literal hello, that's a string. But if you want to put it into a variable, let's say the variable is name, so I call the variable name operator equal to string literal of yummy, which is my name on YouTube. So, and then I want to print out print parentheses name. I don't want to put it in quotes because I don't want it to print out actually name. I want to print out what it is assigned to. So this is a string literal. It'll assign it into memory as, okay, this is a string literal. So now it'll print out string literal yummy. So run module. There we go. It prints out yummy. And you can reassign a variable to a different type. So let's keep this. I can reassign a variable to a different type. So I'm going to say name is equal to pajama, and it'll reassign. So like I said before in my other tutorials. So what will happen is it'll assign yummy to this, and it'll print out yummy, and the variable name is referenced to yummy pajama pajama. So now this will print out pajama and not yummy because I just reassigned it. So run module, and there we go. So yummy pajama. So it'll print this out, and then it'll print this out, but it's still using the same variable name. So, and that is it. So One more thing that I will show before I'm done for the day is that when I was assigning the variable, so let's name variable is equal to 5 print var. Okay, so you know, obviously you know what's going to happen. I'll print out 5, so I won't show that. But there's an error that will occur if you actually call the variable before it is assigned. So print var. Okay. So what do you think will happen? So what Python does, it'll go through each line of code and execute each line of code. So we'll look through this first line of code and say print var. So now it's looking for var. It can't find it because var isn't assigned. So let's go to run module. It should produce an error. There we go. So name error, that's a type of error. Name var is not defined. Of course, it's not defined because it's defined after what's trying to print out. So you need to have the variable before it is called. You have to assign whatever the expression is, this is the expression, to a variable before you call it in a print function. And that is it for that section. So that was a pretty long one. So yeah, so we can delete that. I know I didn't get pretty complicated in this. I know I'm trying to be as concise and as simple as I can. You can use your imagination, whatever you want to do. Use the print function to do whatever you want to do for fun. See how big you can get the program to be. Practice makes perfect. And so yeah, so all the lessons that I went through today. Designing a program, input, processing, and output, displaying output with a print function, comments, variables, which was a really long one that I had to explain, but that's everything that you need to know up to this point. So if you need any references, just go back to my other videos if you forgot about something, and just look over what I've been teaching beforehand. So thanks for looking at my video, and I will post more later to date. So I'll see you guys later.